What if the one sentence you meant as a compliment, a throwaway joke, the kind of thing you say without really thinking, turned out to be the most honest thing you've ever said in your life? What if the woman you admired from a distance looked you dead in the eyes and told you? She already knew. This is a story about dust and silence, about a man too stubborn to say what he meant, and a woman brave enough to say it for him, set in the heart of the American frontier, where the sun bakes the earth hard as iron, and men are measured not by what they say, but by whether they show up when it counts. Stay with me, because the moment that changes everything, it happens right in front of you, and I promise, you won't see it coming. The town of Red Rock Flats sat in the middle of nowhere, like God dropped it there and forgot to come back. One main street, 3 saloons, one of which also served as a dentist's office, which tells you everything you need to know about Red Rock Flats. A general store, a blacksmith, a church that leaned 6 degrees to the left, and a boarding house run by a woman named Clara Holt, who could silence a room just by walking into it. Clara wasn't soft. She'd built that boarding house with her own hands after her father passed, stone by stone, board by board, through 2 winters that would have driven most men back east. She charged fair prices, served hot meals twice a day, and didn't tolerate nonsense before noon. After noon, she had slightly more patience for it, but only slightly. She had dark hair that she kept pinned back, practical clothes that were clean even when everything around her was covered in dust, and eyes the color of strong coffee, the kind that could wake you up or scald you, depending on her mood. Men noticed her. Of course they did. But noticing Clara Holt and doing something about it were 2 very different things. She had a way of looking at a man that made him feel like she'd already counted his flaws and decided they weren't worth her time. Most men couldn't handle that. Most men needed to feel like they were the ones doing the choosing. And then there was Cole Merritt. Cole was a deputy, not the sheriff. The sheriff was a fat, cautious man named Briggs, who mostly signed papers and stayed indoors. Cole was the one who actually did the work. He'd been in Red Rock Flats for 3 years, and in that time, he'd broken up 47 bar fights, tracked down 12 escaped convicts, and once talked a rancher out of burning down his neighbor's fence without throwing a single punch. He was good at his job the way some people are good at breathing. It didn't seem to cost him anything. He was tall, lean, with the kind of hands that looked like they'd fixed 100 things and broken a few more. He didn't talk much. When he did, it counted. He also ate breakfast at Clara's boarding house every single morning. Had done so for 3 years straight. Rain, snow, the occasional thunderstorm that knocked half the roof off the telegraph office. Cole Merritt showed up at 6:30, sat at the corner table by the window, and ordered 2 eggs, black coffee, and whatever bread was fresh. He always left a tip. He never left a mess. He said good morning and meant it. And he had absolutely no idea what to do about Clara Holt. Not because she intimidated him. Well, all right, maybe a little. But mostly because Cole was a man who dealt in facts. He arrested people because the evidence said so. He fixed things because they were broken. He helped people because they needed it. Feelings didn't fit neatly into any of those categories. Feelings were inconvenient. Feelings made a man say something stupid. So instead, he said nothing. For 3 years. And Clara, who noticed everything, noticed this too. Now, before I tell you about the morning everything changed, drop a comment down below. Have you ever said something you meant as a joke that turned out to be the most honest thing you've ever said? Because what's about to happen here, it's exactly that. And it's going to land differently than you expect. It was a Tuesday, nothing special about it. The kind of morning where the sky is too bright too early, and everyone in town is slightly irritated by the heat before it's even gotten started. Cole came in at 6:30 like always. Clara was behind the counter, which she was not always. Usually she had a girl named May working mornings, but May had a sick mother in Tucson, and Clara had covered the shift herself, which meant she was the one who set down Cole's coffee, looked at him, and said, "You look tired." "I'm fine." "You looked tired yesterday too." "I'm fine yesterday too." She poured more coffee into a cup that was still mostly full. He didn't say anything about it. He'd been tracking a man named Harlan Pruitt for 6 days, a cattle thief who had the inconvenient habit of operating right at the county line, which meant jurisdiction was always a fight. Cole had ridden 40 miles in the last 2 days alone, and he'd come up empty both times. He was frustrated. He was tired. And he was sitting at a corner table trying to eat his eggs in peace. Clara brought him the bread without being asked. She set it down, wiped her hands on her apron, and then, for some reason she never quite explained, she didn't leave. "You know," she said, "you don't have to be fine all the time." Cole looked up at her. She looked back at him, perfectly calm, like she was commenting on the weather. "Most people I talk to," he said, "don't say things like that before 7 in the morning. Most people you talk to are trying to avoid arrest." He almost smiled. Almost. "Point taken." She pulled out the chair across from him, which she had never done before, not once in 3 years, and sat down. Not invasively. Just there. Like she'd been sitting across from him every morning for years, and had just forgotten to mention it. "Talk to me," she said, "about something that isn't cattle thieves." And he did. He told her about the town he grew up in, a place in Kansas so small it didn't even have a name on the map, just a dot. He told her about his father, who was a clockmaker, which was possibly the most useless profession in a town with one clock and no concept of punctuality. He told her about the first time he saw the frontier, how it felt less like freedom and more like falling, and how after a while, falling started to feel like flying. She listened, not the polite kind of listening where someone is waiting for their turn to speak. Actually listened. Her coffee went cold, and she didn't notice. And then she told him something about the boarding house, about the night her father died when she was 22. And she sat on the porch and looked at the place he'd left her and thought, "I have no idea how to do this." And then she got up and started doing it anyway. "Because that's the only move," Cole said. "That's the only move," she agreed. They sat there for a few seconds that stretched longer than they should have. Then the bell above the door rang, and 3 cowboys came in loud and hungry, and the morning went back to being a morning. But something had shifted. Cole couldn't name it. He wasn't built for naming things like that. But when he walked out into the dust and the heat and the too bright Tuesday sky, he felt something he hadn't felt in a while. Like maybe the falling wasn't so bad. Here's where I need to stop and tell you about the joke, because that's the thing. The joke is the whole story. It happened 10 days later, on a Saturday, at the end of what everyone in Red Rock Flats agreed was a very long week. The cattle thief had been caught, not by Cole, but by a rancher 2 counties over, which was satisfying in the petty way that all anticlimaxes are. The general store had a small celebration because they'd just gotten a shipment of sugar, which had been delayed 6 weeks by a broken wagon axle. And someone had brought a fiddle to the saloon, which meant half the town was in a good mood by sundown. Cole was not at the saloon. Cole was sitting on the steps of the boarding house, finishing a cigarette, watching the light go orange on the edge of the hills. Clara came out. She'd been at dinner service. She always stayed late on Saturdays. And she was untying her apron, her hair slightly less pinned than usual, her expression carrying the particular tiredness of a person who has dealt with people all day and is done dealing with people. She sat on the step beside him without asking. They watched the orange light together. "Long week," she said. "Long week," he agreed. From inside the saloon, 200 yards down the street, they could hear the fiddle starting up. Someone whooped. Someone else told them to quiet down, which had the opposite effect. Cole watched a hawk circle over the ridge. "There's a man in there," he said, "who's been trying to get your attention since April." Clara didn't look away from the sky. "I know. 3 of them, actually." "I know that too." He was quiet for a moment. Then, without thinking, without calculating it, without meaning it the way it came out, he said, "Whoever wins your heart is going to be a lucky man." He meant it as a compliment. He meant it as one of those things you say when you mean something, but aren't ready to say the thing you actually mean. A safe version. A coward's version, if he was honest with himself. He expected her to say thank you, or nothing, or to make a joke about how the men in this town had better odds of winning a card game with a blindfold. Instead, Clara Holt turned to look at him. She looked at him the way she looked at everything, with those coffee-colored eyes that missed nothing, that had counted his flaws 3 years ago and decided they were worth her time after all. She looked at him like she was done waiting for him to figure it out himself. And she said, very quietly, "He's standing right in front of me." Cole did not move. He is to be forgiven for this. Some information takes a second to land. Some things you've been hoping for so long that when they actually happen, your body forgets what the next step is. The fiddle kept playing down the street. The hawk landed somewhere on the ridge and disappeared. The orange light was turning to purple. And then Cole Merritt, a man who had faced cattle thieves and blizzards and a particularly aggressive bear outside of Laramie without flinching, looked at Clara Holt and said absolutely nothing, because there was nothing left to say. He reached over and took her hand, not dramatically, not the way they do it in the dime novels, just quietly, like it was something he'd been about to do for 3 years and had simply run out of reasons not to. She let him. Now, before we get to what happened next, I want to ask you something. And I mean this genuinely. How many moments have you let slip past because you were waiting for the right time? Because you kept the real thing tucked behind the safe version, the joke version, the version that didn't risk anything? Leave your answer in the comments, because this story is about more than a man and a woman on a porch in the Wild West. It's about the cost of the long delay, and whether we ever get those moments back. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because we are just getting to the part of the story where Red Rock Flats shows exactly how small a town it really is. News travels fast in a place with nothing else to do. By Sunday morning, everyone in Red Rock Flats knew that Cole Merritt and Clara Holt had been seen holding hands on the boarding house steps. By Sunday afternoon, they'd been seen doing it again, this time in broad daylight, walking toward the church, which the town treated as an announcement, even though it wasn't. The 3 men who had been pursuing Clara since April each processed this information differently. The first one bought a new hat, as if that would help. The second one left town, which was an overreaction, but perhaps also a relief for everyone involved. The third one, a cattle dealer named Prentice, decided that what he needed to do was have a conversation with Cole Merritt. This was a mistake. Not because Cole was a violent man. He wasn't. He had spent 3 years in Red Rock Flats specifically not being violent, using words and patience, and occasionally the threat of a badge to solve things that other men solved with their fists. But he was also a man who had just discovered, at age 31, that the person he'd been quietly in love with for 3 years felt the same way. He was not in the mood for Prentice. Prentice found him outside the blacksmith's on Monday morning and made what he clearly believed was a compelling argument about fairness, which involved phrases like, "Had my eye on her first," and "No disrespect, deputy, but..." Cole listened to the whole thing. He waited until Prentice was done. Then he said, "Are you finished?" Prentice was not sure if he was finished. "Go buy your cattle," Cole said. "Go home. Stop talking about her like she's something to be won." and then he walked away. Prentice stood there for a moment, then bought his cattle. He did not bother Clara Holt again. What happened over the next few months was not the stuff of dime novels. It was quieter than that, more real. Cole kept eating breakfast at Clara's boarding house, except now they talked, instead of him staring at his eggs and her refilling his coffee unnecessarily. He started helping with repairs around the place, replacing a rotted window frame here, fixing the water pump there. She started saving him the good bread, which she told no one about, and he told no one about either. On the 4th of July, there was a fireworks display. 12 fireworks, which was 4 more than the year before, which Red Rock Flats considered a massive success. Cole stood beside Clara and watched the sky light up over the desert, and he thought about what she'd said on the porch, and he thought about how long it had taken him to say the thing he meant to say. He turned to her. "I should have said something 3 years ago," he said. She considered this. "Yes," she said. "You should have." "I was scared," she said. "I know. So was I." She looked at him. "But you're here now." He thought about that for a moment. The fireworks were still going, painting everything orange and gold. "I'm here now," he agreed. There's a thing about the frontier that the dime novels always get wrong. They make it about the drama, the gunfights, the chases, the showdowns at high noon. And sure, those things happened. Cole had his share. But what the novels miss is the rest of it. The long, quiet, dusty stretch of ordinary life that made up most of every day. The morning coffee, the sound of the wind across flat land, the way 2 people could sit in silence and not feel like something was missing. That's what Cole and Clara built. Not a legend, not a story for the dime novels, just a life. Together. In a town that leaned 6 degrees to the left and had 3 saloons and a dentist who shared space with one of them. Clara kept the boarding house. Cole kept the badge. They argued sometimes about money, about the hours he kept, about whether the church needed a new roof before or after the water pump needed replacing. She was stubborn. He was stubborn. Neither of them had had enough practice at compromise to be very good at it yet. But they kept showing up. Every morning, corner table, 6:30. Except now she sat across from him sometimes, and her coffee didn't go cold because she was actually drinking it. That's the real love story of the Wild West, not the gunfights. This. And if any part of this story made you feel something, if you've ever held back the real thing and said the safer version instead, share it below. Tell me about your own porch step moment. I read every comment. And if you're new here, subscribe, because next week we're going somewhere else entirely. And I promise you, it's just as good as this one. 18 months after the night on the steps, on a cold November morning, when the first frost had come down from the mountains and painted every surface silver. Cole Merritt walked into the boarding house. His boarding house now, technically, since they'd married in September, in the church that had stopped leaning after Cole spent 2 weekends fixing the foundation, and set a small box on the counter. Clara looked at the box. She looked at him. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a pocket watch. Old, well-made, the kind of thing a clockmaker might build. "Was your father's," Cole said. "I've been carrying it for 12 years. It doesn't run anymore. I've been meaning to fix it." She turned it over in her hands. On the back, engraved in letters worn smooth by years of pocket and thumb, "Time well spent." He used to say that, Cole told her, about everything, about the clocks, about the work, about the people worth spending it on. Clara held the watch for a long moment. Then she set it down gently on the counter and looked at him, with those coffee-colored eyes, the ones that could wake you up or scald you, and said, "Time well spent." He nodded. Outside, the frost was silver on everything. Inside, the boarding house smelled like coffee and fresh bread, and the particular warmth of a place where someone has been doing the work of making a home. The pocket watch sat on the counter. Time, for once, felt like enough. This story was created using artificial intelligence as an artistic reconstruction, an imaginative journey into the world of the American frontier. The characters, events, places, and situations depicted are entirely fictional and the product of creative imagination. They are not intended to represent real individuals or historical events. Please consult verified historical sources for accurate accounts of life in the American West. All content is developed independently with the purpose of entertaining and offering stories worth your time.